my spiritual autobiography, part 5. So I went to this workshop with Judith in September of 1993. And I discovered that Judith had a doctorate in neurobiology, and she was a scientist. And from that place, she got interested in how brain function worked more generally, and she became a practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. And then what she did was she was one of the first students of a man named Roger Callahan, who had decided that there was a way of putting psychology and acupuncture together by using acupressure. So she had studied about acupressure, and then she found this woman who's an extraordinary saintly person in my one time that I met her, a woman named Mary Louise Muller. And Mary Louise Muller was a craniosacral therapist, and she had put together a protocol, a very simple protocol about how to transform trauma using craniosacral therapy. And what Judith did was she took that protocol and the work that she had done on using acupressure for healing, which is why she had this woman tap all over her body while she was telling the story, and muscle testing, which she told me was a way just of accessing sort of your deepest sort of subconscious knowing, and some of her own extraordinary original research on the structure of loss and violence traumas, and she put it all together into a protocol. And that's when I met Judith. And I was the first person who came to any of Judith's trainings. She had just started. I think I was the first person who was a licensed psychologist who ever went to one of her trainings. And what I realized, and then what we realized together, was we could take everything she knew, and we could take everything I knew, which was everything I'd ever studied in clinical psychology and psychodynamic therapies and narrative systems therapies and postmodern systems and every kind. I had trained in many different kinds of therapeutic ways of being, and the kinds of regression and past life work I had done and the energy work I had done. And we could put it all, and the archetypal work I had done, and the Enneagram work I had done, and depth psychology, and we could wed it all together into one framework. And Judith and I did that for a year, and we developed something that she was at that point calling healing from the body level up, which I came to call guided self-healing, because Judith really saw things from a very sort of materialistic scientific point of view, and I was a soul psychologist. And it became clear eventually that she was interested more in cure and fixing things, and I was more interested in healing. So we each developed our own way of understanding this, but we worked together for a while, and then we went off and started to do our own thing. And so I was doing this work, and I had a social worker who came to me, and she was getting really quite extraordinary results. And she said, stories that I will tell you later. And she said, you have to teach us how to do this. And I said, well, I can do that. So I wanted to do a beta group. So I invited her and 13 other people to come and study it. And of course, the only one who didn't come was the social worker. She actually came the second we did the training. And so I did my first training of this stuff in 1997. I brought together a group of people, and I started teaching them what would be called guided self-healing. And guided self-healing eventually turned into the work we call life-centered therapy. And through this, I can only tell you, I have found my own extraordinary healing. And I have seen things that if you told me, I would have seen them when I was in graduate school. I would have told you, I believe you, and I also believe that pigs can fly. Except now I know that it's possible. Pigs can fly, because I've seen things that, small miracles, but I've also seen things that are big enough miracles that if I told people about them when I was in graduate school, they would have said that's the kind of stuff you hear about in Bibles, but it's not possible in real life. Except now I know from my own experience and the subjective people, the experience of the people I've seen, that miracles are possible and can come true. So thank you for going on this little journey with me. At some point or other, I will share some of my own journey and my own past lives that I've discovered that have really been so informative to me. But that will come So thank you. And now we're going to go on and we're going to start to look at life and life-centered therapy and how we can really understand what life is about. And then we can understand its implications for healing and how we apply it. And that is where we're going to move on to next.